saved alone. They lost 4 daughters crossing the Atlantic. And to be able to say, it is well, when he crossed and he goes to that place, he says, God, it's even so. Even so. He writes this, and it's always knowing the promise that we hold, that it makes us different from anybody else. The rest of the world does not have the hope that we have. But do we share that hope? Do we understand the dynamic of by being quiet, by being just unengaged, we deny others that hope that is in Christ? Even so, God, even if it costs me a relationship, if it costs me my job, if it costs me my career, let it be. Here I am. Send me. God, I'll do it. That's the place we have to get to. We have to get to that point. I think we are at a defining point here in America that people are getting to that point. No longer just being silent. No longer just being caught up in the world. Like I said, freedom, the freedoms that we enjoy, it is the light that shines, because it is only in the Spirit of Christ do we have freedom. By His Spirit, governments don't give us freedom. Laws don't give us freedom. Laws give us death. Money doesn't give us freedom. Families don't give us freedom. It only comes through Christ. In Christ, we have freedom. Because see, if light is removed, darkness comes in. Think about that. If I turn off these lights, darkness comes in. If we remove our light, darkness happens. But you know what? One small light in a room of darkness is it's magnified. That's the power of the light that we have. The salt and light. Every aspect of Jesus, when he says, I am the light, I am the salt, every aspect that he uses to identify himself has to touch the natural world. We are in this natural world. We are the conduit, the gate that brings the kingdom of God and the presence of the living God, His Spirit, into this realm. We have to be about our Father's business. We can't just sit on the sideline. We can't say, well, I'm waiting for somebody else to stand up. I'm waiting for somebody to rally. I'm waiting for the next. Somebody needs to do something. Somebody lives on Someday Island. Someday I'll do that. Somebody ought to. Charlie Kirk was a somebody that stood up. The disciples, they were a nobody and became a somebody because they said yes. We have to understand if we have been empowered by the Spirit of God, carriers, vessels of Yahweh, we are called to bring it here and to make a difference. Darkness flees in our presence. As I was putting this message together, if God, send me. A lot of times we want God to bless what we're doing. God, I sent myself, bless what I'm doing. I decided this is my career, this is my family, bless what I'm doing. Guilty. I did that. Probably for a decade, or if not longer. It was, God, I'm going to do this. Bless me. And if I'm not blessed, something's wrong with Him. I've heard this week, we are all Charlie Kirk. It sounds good. We're all little Christs. That is our measuring stick, not human. I don't want to be like Paul. I don't want to be like Peter. I don't want to be like Charlie. I want to be just like Christ. Because see, for too much, we still want to bring it down to this realm. It is the highest standard to be called a Christian. You're not born it. You're not given that label. You become a Christian, a little Christ, when you look like him and you act like him. I am so tired of wearing that label. But see, the whole presence, the whole purpose of saying, here I am, is to what? Be sent. Do you realize Jesus came to seek what was lost? He told us his last commandment was to go. See, church says, come. Come. Be in this party, be in this little section here. Come. He says, go. I mean, literally, he even tells them, I was sent. In John 17:18, as you sent me into the world. Jesus was one sent. He said, here I am, God, send me. I'll go. I also have sent them into the world. We are to be sent. We may come together to be edified, but we have to go. One cent. There's so many aspects of. The penny is the smallest denomination. It's like the mustard seed. It's the same principle. 1 cent. But the impact of 1 cent, 100-fold, you are talking millions of dollars. Think about that. 100 decimal places, you're in the millions. Billions. It just takes a penny. It just takes 1 cent. That we're willing to say, I only need a little bit. We're waiting for the dynamic. We're waiting to be lifted up. We've got to get credentials. We've got to have people. We only need a penny. A cent. 1 cent. It's the least. I love that when Paul in Corinthians says, I'm an apostle, but I'm the least. He was the greatest apostle. He wrote, 2/3 of the Testament, the New Testament that we have. He was probably, in my opinion, the greatest of the apostles that we have record of. But he calls himself the least. How many people today how many pastors and leaders across this nation say, I'm the least? I'll wash feet. I'll open a door. Or that becomes below them. Not worth my time and energy. Because see, there is always a call. God has always had a call for his creation. Come to me. Jesus, how many times he says, come to me. You who are burdened. You who are, he came to seek that was lost. He left the 99. I love that. We just talked about that. He leaves the 99 to go to find the one that was lost. God has always been calling us. Since the garden, the first call from God was what? Unfortunately, where are you, Adam? It's not a geographical question. God knew exactly where Adam was. But the first call is, Adam, where are you? Adam was hiding. Why? He had separated himself from God. Sin separates us. He was hiding. Again, I'm not going to do the fig leaf thing. But it's not about geography. Guess what? He had literally, it's literally when God calls us, it's about availability. Do you have the Spirit? Are we aligned in our spirit and desire, our willingness? Are attentive. He used to walk in the garden with the living God, and now he is hiding himself. Does he hear him coming? No, God has to call him. He's lost the attentive to his voice, to his spirit. He's no longer surrendered under his law, under his guidance, under his obedience. He's rebelled. He's thrown off that. And he's been transformed. Think about that. Adam no longer aligned with God. He wasn't available to God any longer. He was separated from him. He was in a rebellion, no longer willing to seek God's heart and his desires. He was seeking himself. Sound familiar? Adam was no longer attentive to God's presence. He no longer submitted to God's authority. I will be God. I'll decide what's good and evil. We're still doing that today. We just call it religion. Adam was no longer obeyed the laws of God. He only gave us one. Don't eat. Now we have thousands, and we still are a lawless society. Adam had been transformed, and not in a good way. He became just like his new father. Hasatan. You're just like your father. Jesus told even the religious leaders, you're just like. Because we took on a new character. We took on a new image. That separation. That's why God, but see, the love of God is the one. God loves us so much. He goes, you're still my creation. Where are you? I want you back. That's the whole gospel story. You left. I want you back. I'll send my son. We're going to be together forever. That's the gospel story. There's a cost. There's heartache. Because sin leads to death. It does. I think it's interesting, if I truly believe we would be in a different state had Adam and Eve just said, God, here we are. We're not trying to hide. Forgive us. I truly believe it would have been a different, whole different, but that's not Satan. Satan didn't say, forgive me, God, I want to usurp. No. He doubles down. So did we. We're going to hide. We're going to cover ourselves. We're going to make our own way. I think it's interesting that one of the first questions in Matthew, the beginning of the New Testament, is, where is this child? They're still looking. They're seeking this child. Jesus tells his disciples, they weren't his disciples yet. He just comes on the scene. They start to follow him, and he goes, what do you seek? We have to be people that seek. We seek God. We seek him. And Jesus says in Matthew 6:33, if we seek his kingdom and his righteousness, everything else is taken care of. Shocker. He takes care of it all. Always has and always will. We just don't believe it. I can promise you there are moments when we just feel unworthy. Right? That's kind of, Adam and Eve, they felt shame. They weren't worthy to be in the presence of God anymore. They felt unprepared for his coming. Sometimes we feel like, God, I can't be used by you. I don't feel prepared. I'm not equipped. I don't have a seminary degree. I don't have, a life of, I have a history. Oh. Unfortunately, we all have a history. But I think that when you read through, and I think why we have such a diverse collection of people, of stories in the scriptures, is because it starts to understand it's about a people that are not out of their own purpose, their own ability. It is literally about the transforming power of the Spirit of God that brings transformation and restoration, healing, deliverance. The kingdom advances. It's never because of your past. It's literally, God is not looking for perfection. My goodness, but see, that's what religion does is we honor, we want perfection. You've got to do this, you've got to be this, you've got to hit this standard, otherwise you can't be used. If you don't study for 5 hours a week and pray so much you can't be part of this ministry, if you're not spend a decade studying, you can't teach. You can't. But God's not waiting for perfection. We all have an excuse. Adam had an excuse, right? That woman. We still have excuses. Well, God can't use me. I did this. God can't use me. I don't have that. We do it all the time. I don't have that talent. God, I can't speak in front of somebody. I can't share. I just want to be quiet. That's not me. Moses had a speech impediment to go speak before the king, the greatest man on the planet of earth. People just need to say, here I am. We just have to say, here I am. God does everything else. We get so worried about how the people are going to see us and what's going to happen and am I going to misspeak? Am I going to not say something right? Am I going to do something wrong? Is somebody going to laugh? Is somebody going to not like me because of what I said? He just says, here I am. That's all. It's not hard. See, the character and cost of 1 cent. I wish the cost was just a penny, but there is a cost, and there is a character of those that are sent. Because see, those that just say come, it means you have to change. You come here. Those sent say, I'm going to meet you where you are. That's what I used to love. And again, Billy Graham, when he would do his crusades and he would play that song, just come as you are. You don't have to put on your Sunday best. You don't have to play the part and look all this and get shined up. Just come as you are. That's the call of God. It's not, well, if you can just shine a little bit more, if I can just get you a little bit better, study some more, get another credential, do another conference, get another promotion over here, get somebody else's affirmation, then you can be used. That's not the case. We just have to be available. It starts with availability. Again, Adam ran that hide. He separated from God. When Abraham heard the call of God, all he says, Abraham, God calls, says, yes. I love that. Yes. Not, who's that? Is that his voice? I don't know. Am I hearing things? He just says yes. Here I am. See, God had to go find Adam. Abraham was right here. Abraham was, again, he made himself available. He didn't ask for the details. God didn't say, okay, Abraham, here's what's going to happen. You're going to have to journey. You're going to live in tents, and you're going to wander this land and all of this stuff. He's leaving the most modern city on the planet. Indoor plumbing in Ur at the time. We have places on the earth that still don't have indoor plumbing. He's asking him to leave this, to go where he doesn't tell him. How many of us just say yes? I used to use the analogy of when, if somebody says jump, we'll say, we'll jump. I love the one that says you jump and on the way up you ask how high. Because that's the heart of understanding. You react first, yes. Yes, Lord. My goodness, the Spirit of God speaks to us. We just discredit it. We think we have to wait. We think nobody else is going to talk to us. We have to wait for somebody else to tell us what the Spirit's saying. Did Abraham wait for somebody to interpret it for him? Or did he go to the priest and say, I think I heard this, I'm not sure. Can you confirm this or have to go get approval? No. God called him. He just said yes and made himself available. He was in the right position, unlike Adam. He was positioned towards the Lord. He could hear he understood when he heard the word, the call, he said yes. Availability is alignment. It's alignment with God's Spirit and his desires. Abraham didn't say, well, I want to stay here in Ur. I'm going to build this little business. Just bless what I'm doing here. I'm going to have a family over here. Bless what I'm doing. Just all, I can't help it. I think of my daughter who is with JSO. She's a sheriff deputy, and she does patrol. She's still one of the patrol, one of the foot soldiers up in Jacksonville. When she gets a call for service, she doesn't go, well, what is this? Is it a shooter? Is it a domestic? She doesn't get to sit there and say, well, I need more details, and then I'll decide if I'm going to go help. She goes. She makes herself available and goes. Along the way, a lot of times they will get more information, thank goodness. But she doesn't sit there and say, well, should I go? Did I hear that right? Should I interpret that? They go. That's how they're trained. That's when they're tuned. When they're dispatched, they go. I mean, a volunteer fireman doesn't go, well, I don't like that address. It's on the other side of town. It's out of my jurisdiction. I think I'm just going to stay here and let it burn. One scent shows willingness. Willingness. It sounds like a benign word, but you have to. God does not go against our will. He's given us free will. We have to be willing. To be sent, to do what God has called us, we have to be willing. And that brings me to Moses. I mean, in Exodus 3:4, it says at the burning bush, Moses answered. When he sensed it, he goes, he could hear the Lord call him, and he says, here I am. Again, here I am. He's in a bush. It's not like, well, what is that? I don't know. I think I'm going to run the other way. I might have. I don't know. He just says, here I am. And again, we talk about Moses because Moses kind of said, well, I don't speak so good. And what did God say? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. He could have had a whole list of excuses, right? But he made himself willing. Okay, Lord, if you say I will go. I mean, he did get excuses, but his first response was willing. I'll do it. Moses didn't believe he was equipped. Again, do we believe we're equipped? A lot of times, no. And if you do believe you're equipped, a lot of times it's pride. God will strip that. I don't know how many times, when I took over this church, I go, I can do this. This is like a corporation. I can make it work. Arrogant, pride, yeah. God stripped that. The church. It's not easy. We have to understand God will equip us for the purposes that he has called us to. God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. We hear this a lot, but we have to grasp this. We have to be willing to be equipped. Not going in our own strength. Okay, God called us, jump off the cliff. Do we jump? He was going to give you a parachute, but you jumped first. I mean, this is a lot of times what we do. Ready, fire, aim. We have to be equipped. We have to allow God to equip us. That's why we truly believe to be a training place, a place to be equipped. That's what we have to be. We grow, we mature. Training, equipping, then go, then send. We just have to be willing. And I when I think about being willing, I'm dating myself, but I think back to Welcome Back, Carter. And there was a kid in the class. Anytime there was a question, me. I think his name was Horshack. See, that's what God wants. Is a willingness. I don't even know. I might not even know the answer. Me. One of my favorite songs, and it reminds me of playing sports as a kid, is from John Fogerty. It's called Center Field. And it says, "Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play today." I think about a lot of times in sports and stuff, it's like we're not looking, we don't have to only play the best player. Sometimes it's the one that says, "I'm willing to go play." I mean, especially when I was in high school, I played football. And this was in a small town. Well, Bentonville at the time was a very small town. Bentonville, Arkansas. I know, home of Walmart. Long story. But at that time, when I moved to Arkansas, they didn't even have a traffic light in Bentonville, Arkansas. 1979, I think it was, 1980. But I played football there, and we were a small school. And we would play the bigger schools, like where my wife went to school. And I'm telling you, by the fourth quarter, after getting beat up by dudes that were twice your size, this way, and it's like, okay, who's going in for defense? I'm sitting on my hands. I'm like, don't. That willingness that you had in the first quarter, by the fourth quarter, you're down 49-0, it wanes. And then you're like looking down the bench going, who's going to go? God just wants us to be willing. Be willing. We still lost, but we had to be willing. And we learned character. It changed us. Because you know what? We were prideful. We finished the game. We didn't forfeit. We finished the game. I think that we all have excuses. I think we allow the flesh to show us, the world to show us that we have a limitation. We have an excuse. Well, I live here, I do this, I only work here. I didn't have an education. I don't have a college degree. I don't have a seminary degree. I don't have this. We all have an excuse why we don't. I'm not going to share one of my favorite quotes about excuses, but it ends with, we all have one. And that's true. We all have an excuse. I mean, I think about throughout Scripture, everyone that God used had an excuse. Did Gideon? Just a couple? God still used him? Mary had an excuse. I don't have anybody in my life. That's not me. The disciples, Paul, all of them had excuses. I know we single out Moses sometimes, but they all had to overcome an excuse. They had to allow God to take that excuse and make it fall to the ground. But they had to release it. They had to let go of it. So do we have excuses? Yeah, I've had excuses. I still have excuses. That's why we're still here. We have to let go of our excuses. One sin is attentive to his voice. It goes back to again, being available, but being attentive to God's voice. I love Samuel as the best example of this because he's just a little guy, right? He's a little guy, dedicated, living in the temple, and he hears God call his name. And he keeps running. Did you call me, Eli? No, didn't. Why? He's attentive. He's listening, and Eli gives him some great advice. If you hear it again, just say, what? Lord, here, for your servant's listening. I'm here. Here I am. Lord, I'm listening. Do we not need to be attentive to the Spirit of God? See, we want to run. We get a commissioning or a purpose, and we run. And sometimes the Spirit of God is, hey, stay in step with me. Stay in tune with what I'm hearing, what I'm speaking to you. We want to run out ahead. Like I said, for several times God was calling him in 1 Samuel 3, 4 through 10. It tells him that he keeps on hearing his voice, sends him back to bed. Here's his voice, sends him back to bed. But in verse 10, he finally says, Lord, speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. Samuel had to attune his ears to the Spirit of God, to the voice of the living God. Do we not need the same? Because sometimes we have a tendency to listen to other voices, godly voices, prophets, apostles, somebody with a title, somebody with a PhD, somebody, we have a tendency to give credit to those that have a larger voice, bigger following, than really listening to the Spirit and the voice within us. Unfortunately, that's how cults and bad things happen when we just follow blindly, when we do not discern. We have to discern the voice of God, the Spirit of God. Because there are many spirits out. Can we discern the Spirit of God? We have to discern that voice. Jesus says, I only do what the Father did. I only speak what the Father. He was in tune, right? He was aligned. He was available. He stayed connected with them. But how does he do this? It literally says in Luke 6:12, I think it is. And it was at this time that he went off to the mountain to pray and spent the whole night in prayer to God. Jesus had to spend a whole night communing with the Father. Do you not think it's important for us to stay connected, communing with the Father? In the verses after, in Luke 6, it says when he came down, he was endued with power, and the Spirit of God was healing people without him having to do a thing. But in John 12:49, he says, I don't speak on my own authority. How can we speak on a lot of times we speak out of our own authority. We speak out of our own soul. We speak out of what we know. The Father who sent me, sent. There's that word again. We see that a lot. Jesus was sent. He sent me, has commanded me to say and how to say it. John 17:18 again. As you sent me, I send them. We're all being sent, but it is by the word and the power of God, not in our own. What is it? Not by spirit, not by power, but by my spirit. Not by might, not by power, but by spirit. We are empowered. It says, what is it in Proverbs 3:5? If we discern, if we understand that Jesus Christ and him crucified, he is the one that will empower us. The word comes alive. We have to be attentive and ready to listen. A lot of times, we have two ears and one mouth. A lot of times we don't use them in the same proportion. We have a tendency to do this more than we do this. I think about, when a child, when they're lost, if you've ever had a lost child or been a lost child and you hear your parents' voice, you can't wait. You're attuned to it. If you're in the dark or you're lost, you're listening for that voice. I like it. I used to watch game shows, and one of them, was filmed in Southern California. It was called The Price is Right. And they would literally have an audience full, right? And they would what? They would take the microphone and they would call somebody's name. The audience was silent. These are ruckus people dressed up. It's crazy, right? When it came to call somebody's name, everyone went silent. They're listening. Is it going to be my name? Is it going to be my name? And when it was, they would bust it down to the stage and jumping around and they're hollering. That's being attentive. That's understanding, listening with an intent for a purpose and responding accordingly is what he's asking us to be and to do. It's not religious work. It's not like, I have to spend so much time in quiet. I've got to pray and I've got to speak. That's religion. But see, the problem is we allow the world to distract us. The world's very distracting. There's a lot of shiny things out there. I feel sometimes like one of those cats where you just shine a light and you're trying to catch the light. The distractions, that's what the enemy does, is he wants to distract. The voices, the world, think about what's pressing in. Social media and all of these things, they want to distract you. We've seen some of the greatest atrocities happen. Why? Because they were distracted. Don't look at those trains going by with the people in them. Over here, just sing louder. Just stay distracted over here. The enemy loves distraction. That's what Adam and Eve got distracted, right? Wait, we can be like God? We can design our own? We can determine what's good and evil? Yeah, don't look over here. Governments will do this. What do they do? Think about the Romans. What did they do with the Romans? Hey, distract them with bread and games. People were dying in the streets. But they could distract the people with games and bread. Governments are doing this. Our government's doing the same thing. Distractions. We have to understand we cannot be distracted. To hear the living God, we cannot be distracted. Sent ones require total surrender. And again, we've talked about this is probably one of the hardest things for us. Surrender and obedience. Things that we've struggled with. And I love this about Isaiah because when you read this in Isaiah 6, his first response is he's in the temple. He gets this vision of the temple and he sees the glory of God. He is moved by this glory. He says, woe is me. Cursed am I. Like what does it do? It starts to bring you to the point of knowing you could see yourself for. He saw himself as God saw him. This is before the sacrifice of Christ. Think about this. He starts to see himself. I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips. He was not the one to say, well, I need to go study. If I can just pray some more, I can cleanse myself enough, then I can come back into your presence. No, it took an angel with a coal to touch his lips to cleanse him. He had to surrender to the living God, to know he was not going to be able to do it himself. This is before his response. He has to be cleansed. We have to surrender. We have to be changed by the Spirit of God before we can say, here I am. Before we can actually hear, I think that we have to be surrendered to God. We have to be aligned and in that understanding of an available person. He surrenders means unconditional obedience. He didn't ask, where am I going? How am I going to do it? You going to pay for it? You going to bless me? What do I get out of it? He didn't. He surrendered to trusting in God and said, I'll go. Who's going to go for me? Who's going to speak for me? You've cleansed me. Now I am empowered to do it. He didn't ask where, how long, what do I have to say? Just send me. I'll go. I mean, think about this. When somebody signs up to the military, right? They go into the military. They say, well, I want to be stationed here. I want to this. I can only report to this captain. And do they get to choose all that? Buddy, did you choose where you went? No, not so much. You signed up. See, a lot of times we're still negotiating with Jesus. Okay, I'll become a Christian if you bless me. If you do this. Okay, God. I mean, I used to do this all the time. God, just fix this for me, and then I will do what you want me to do. We're negotiating. We're trying to, instead of just being a soldier, you report for duty. What do you say? Yes, sir. In school, I used to love it when again, dating myself, when we were in grade school, they would take roll every morning. Well, what did you say? Here. You didn't get to say, well, I'm only going to be here for a little bit because I don't want to have to learn that. We don't get to choose where we go. But what's interesting is we all feel, again, I think about Isaiah, we can all feel we're just not worthy. We're not, I couldn't do that. I don't have that much, I'm not that religious where I can do all of what he's doing. We look at some of these people, oh, Charlie did this, or, Billy Graham did that. I couldn't be like that. We discredit ourselves. We all feel we're unworthy. I think that's the biggest thing is Satan wants to tell you, you're not worthy. You're not equipped. You can't do this. God wouldn't call you to do that. What, are you kidding me? The risk involved? He wouldn't make you do that. Yeah, I think he would. Because God's grace is what purifies us and empowers us. It's his Spirit. It's not us. We have to receive that. We don't get to choose. He doesn't choose. Again, God doesn't choose the perfect vessel. He makes the vessel perfect. We're still trying to do it out of ourselves. It's like being on the potter's wheel ourselves. Well, I'm going to make myself perfect. The potter's hand, what does it say? He doesn't know. He can't. I'll take care of it. The pot's going to make the pot the best. Like I said, the soldier just says, I'm reporting for duty. Wherever it is. Wherever they're sent. Wherever the commander sends them, they go. Whether that's the jungles of Southeast Asia, the Rhine River in Germany, my father was in the Pacific, it doesn't matter. They go where they're sent. The King of Kings says, you're my kingdom. You're my people. Go where I send you. We're still trying to negotiate. But that's what we're called to do here is we train, we equip, we send. That's what the encouragement is. We just do it. If you're keeping track, we're on 5, I got 6. The character of cost and cost. Here comes the cost. That surrender is a cost. Obedience is a cost. It always has a cost. Matthew 4:19-20, Jesus says, follow me. Again, he didn't say, we're going to go do this, you're going to do this, he just said, follow me. And the disciples left their net. Here I am. I'll go. They just left their net. They didn't say, here, they literally said, they left immediately. They dropped their nets. It wasn't like, well, let me go bury my father. Let me go take care of this business. Let me go tell my wife. Can I go ask my wife if I can come out and play? Can I go, all of these things that we do today, we qualify them and wait. And that's why Jesus, when he was saying, you can't put your hand to the plow and turn back. It is a response that always requires a response. Every call requires a response. They didn't just say, here I am with their words and then try to do something else. They literally walked away. They showed it with their actions. That's what James 1:2 says. Don't be just hearers, be doers. When we hear a word, we say, oh, that's a good word. We'll walk out here today. Okay, what's for lunch? Is that where we go? Unfortunately, across America, a lot of churches, it's worried about how soon can we get out and what's our next agenda item. Not how do we advance the kingdom. Because people are dying. People are separated from Christ. We have to seek the lost. We expect them to come to church. Go find the lost. That's what Jesus did. There's an obedience to it. The one sent, leave behind the known for the unknown. We want to know everything in advance before we go. Maybe that's just me. I plan out everything. I'm like, when I plan a vacation, I plan out everything. We don't have that luxury with God. I mean, had God shown me where we would be and what it would cost us to get here today, I don't know that I would have said, here I am. I don't know. What it cost our kids, what it cost our just everything, all the cost. I don't know. But I'm glad I did. And continuing to say, here I am. It's a constant struggle, but always there is a response. Remember last week I was talking about freedom. Freedom has a cost, it's never free, and there's always a response. Always. The call that God has placed upon you, it will not come cheaply. It will cost you, could cost you everything. It cost Charlie his life. It cost Paul his life. It cost Peter his life. It cost every one of them. The sentence is life. The question is, where do you serve it? Peter's response, I love this. In Luke 5, when Jesus tells him, he's already been fishing forever, right? He says, cast your nets on that side. How many of us would have said, are you kidding me? Did I not just tell you I've been up all night? Did I just tell you I haven't caught a thing? I'm the fisherman. You're the Messiah. At that time, I don't know that he grasped it. You're just the rabbi. You stick to what you know, I'll stick to what I know. How many of us would have that response? If God calls you to do something totally against what you know or what you thought, well, that's not God. He can't be right. He wouldn't ask me to do that. I mean, he's a seasoned fisherman. He's been up all night. He experiences this miraculous catch. He falls to his knees. It reminds me of Isaiah, right? He experiences this amazing catch and he says, leave me, Lord, I am a sinful man. It brings us to that point where we lose our own, who we are. We lose our pride. We lose, our understanding of ourselves. And God calls us to be different. That's not who you are. He changes from a fisherman to what? Don't be afraid. From now on, it is men you will catch. Talk about a higher calling. Talk about taking us an advancement, right? Instead of catching slimy, smelly, oily fish, to a human being, the greatest creation that God has. That's who you're going to catch. See, when we allow God to call us, we don't know the limitations. We're the ones that put the limitations on us. I could never share the gospel like that. I could never, do that. I mean, I think of all of them. I think of Moses, Isaiah, Peter, even Paul. All of them felt unworthy. All of them did. But they had to let go of that, of their past. They had to let go of it. They had to drop the nets to take over and advance what God has called them to. The last one, number 6, is they have to experience transformation. We cannot be the same. When God calls us, he will transform us. I mean, Paul is the greatest of this, right? From Acts 9, 3-6 on the road to Damascus. Paul, he encounters Jesus, and I love his response. Lord, what do you want me to do? Here I am. Send me. What do you want me to do? He doesn't ask, okay, I'll do this, I won't do that. Wait a second, I'm a Pharisee, and I'm this, and I shouldn't have to do that. And he transforms this man. He went from Saul to Paul. There's a transformation that happens when we are called. When we receive the living God, we are transformed from death to life. He was transformed from persecutor to preacher. He proclaimed the gospel more than anyone else, probably to this day. From an enemy of Christ to an apostle of Christ. And we think God can't use us. I think God wouldn't use us. Saying, here I am to God will transform your identity and it'll change your destiny. Absolutely it will. I mean, I think of Charlie Kirk, and his destiny was shifted when he said, God, I'll go where you want me to go. To the places where I didn't even want to. I didn't want to go to college. He puts him in the colleges to the darkest places. In our nation, I truly believe our colleges have become the darkest places because evil abounds. It's taught and it's venerated, followed closely by our government and third by our entertainment. But it's shifting. It's changing. People are waking up. Not the woke, awakening. People are waking up. It does. It changes our identity. When we say yes to the Lord, when I receive Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, I am changed forever. My destiny is changed. But guess what? When he calls you, it will transform you. All of them were transformed. Abraham, Moses, Isaiah was transformed. Peter, Paul, David, King David, he was transformed. He was a shepherd boy. Wasn't even included in the search for a king. Was David the first one trying to cut in line, saying, I want to be king, I want to be king, I want to be king? They had to go get him. I love this. Paul says, I am the least of the apostles, but by God's grace, that is what I am. He no longer considered himself a Pharisee, all of those things, not even a Jew. He says, I don't even want to be known as a Jew anymore. I want to be known as an apostle of Christ. Paul's life is a testimony that no past mistake disqualifies us from God's calling. What matters is not where we have been, but where God is leading us. And I think this is the greatest hindrance is, well, I have a past. God can't use that. Some of the greatest testimonies and the biggest impacts of sharing the gospel is when an alcoholic says, I used to be this and now I'm that. A thief, a murderer, all of us. Paul was a murderer. He didn't have his hand in it, but guess what? They killed Stephen, and he was all in. No matter our past, when we say, here I am, God can rewrite our story. He can. That's the power of the living God. And what's interesting is when he calls us to go forward, we change. We are transformed. We become more like him. Not through our own efforts, but because we're aligned with him. I mean, I would think about it. It's like when we had the Civil War. Guess what? There were times where rebel soldiers would join the Union. They had to change uniforms, otherwise they'd been shot. But because when it became real of what they were fighting for, they changed. Paul surrendered his past and he moved forward into the greatest propagation of the gospel. The same one he was persecuted became the one that he venerated, that he put all his trust in. The common factors, the common characteristics of all of these, if you live, and anybody, any one of these in here, the ones that I've gone through, they have faith that overcomes fear. And I think that speaks to all of us. We all have or deal with fear, right? All sent ones must have faith that'll overcome fear. See, fear leads to us hiding. What was the first thing Adam did is hide because they had a fear of God. They had shame, right? I mean, timidity. Okay, I'll be quiet. All right, I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to get kicked off my social media platform. Don't want to get unliked by family. Don't want to get uninvited to the Thanksgiving dinner because I speak about Jesus, so I don't talk about that. There's ways that timidity is a scary thing because we don't really denounce it, but that's just being silenced. That's why how many times in the scriptures it says, do we boldly proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ? Not, well, Jesus saves. Okay. Oh, good, I said it, so I can move on. No. It's rebellion. Fear leads to rebellion. Always does. Fear leads to conformity. We've seen that in our society. Fear of being ostracized. We've made a church that makes us what? Inclusive. We want to conform to society, make it seeker-friendly, make it outside-friendly. We want to include as many people as possible. Don't want to offend those, but we can offend the Lord that we serve by compromising. That's okay. But it all leads to fear will wind up, we will sin. We wind up in sin. And as I started today, I think about Luke 19:10. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. That's our purpose. To seek the lost. Not to try to corral as many as we can in. See, that's the come. It's go in to seek them. You may bring them with you to the church to be transformed, to be trained up, to meet together, to be built up, but we have to go seek. And I'll be honest, I haven't been a real good seeker. I could hide real well. Hide and seek was my favorite game, and I could hide with the best of them. And I think in my life I've still been hiding. But God calls us to seek, because that's what he did. He came to seek that was lost. I was one of those. We were all one of those. That one out of the 99. We were that one. I'm thankful he left the 99 to go find me. See, from the beginning, it was a quest to find his creation. Creation was lost. Adam and Eve lost the connection with God. God lost his creation to the enemy. But the whole purpose of the scriptures and of Jesus coming was a quest to bring creation, to bring his people back to him. We continue that with a purpose. But as I was winding this up, I started to think, what if Abraham said no? Nope, not going to leave. Nope, don't want to do it. What if Moses said no? Israel might still be in Egypt. I mean, they had the opportunity because God gives us free will. What if Isaiah said, no, I'm good. I don't need that coal. I'm going to stay who I am. What if Mary said no? No, the cost is too much. They're going to think I did something. I could get stoned for that. No. What if Jesus said no? God, find somebody else. What if the disciples said no? What if the disciples said no? Because Jesus left them in charge. What if Paul said no? No, I'd still rather go persecute. So much more fun. I'd rather do that. Because it's myself, it's my own pride. I can be the best persecutor in this planet. What if he said no? What if Charlie Kirk said no? This hit me when they showed his empty chair from his podcast that he's been doing for like 10 years. What if he said no? How many campuses would we have people, young people, this generation, standing up and proclaiming the gospel? If Charlie had said no? I don't want to go to the colleges. God, don't send me there. I want to build what I want to build. But what if we said yes? What if you said yes? What if I said yes? What if we said yes? What impact would we have? Multiply. To say yes. It doesn't. Jesus only needed 12. He only needed, I don't even think he needed 12. He chose 12. He only needed himself. Let's be real. But what if this generation says yes? What if we can impact this generation? Not give up on them. I am guilty of saying, man, that Gen Z, all they care about are phones and themselves, social media and themselves. And this is the generation that has the greatest turning to Jesus Christ. Young men, 18 to 24, I think it is, they are 26. They have grown to like 56% of them professing their belief in Jesus Christ. The highest number that we've seen in generations. The same one I am guilty of calling useless. Because all Abraham did was he said yes, and he became the father of nations. Moses said, yes, I'm willing. And he led a nation out of bondage. I mean, Isaiah said yes, and he turned Israel transformed. It just takes a yes. The disciples said yes. I'll follow you, Jesus, and we will impact the globe. Paul said yes. And we read about all that he did and continues to do thousands of years later. How many of us read something of Plato or Aristotle thousands of years later? Very little. We're still reading about what Paul did, about what the disciples did, about what Jesus has done. You see, who does God use to advance his kingdom, to bring salvation, healing, and deliverance to his creation? The called out ones. Are we willing to hear the call? If we call ourselves an ecclesia, we love that word today. It's a buzzword in the church. Ecclesia, it's just a fancy word. But it literally means to be called out, to govern according to heaven. But see, God uses the old and the young, male and female. There is no difference. So let's start taking some of these excuses away from us. Well, I'm retired, I'm older, I'm just going to sit at home, I don't know anybody, I'm not going to do anything. Abraham was pretty old, and God used him. Sarah was pretty old, and God used her. The rich and the poor, well, I don't have the resources, or I have so many resources, I have a luxury time now. God uses the rich and the poor. He uses the educated and the uneducated. I mean, we have fishermen that probably were outside of their education in the Pentateuch, and then you have Paul that's like a scholar. He uses us all. Yeah, I got a degree, but I couldn't even use it. Charlie Kirk didn't need a degree. Very educated. Sinners turn saints, and this is the thing. A murderer becomes the greatest apostle. I mean, I think of some of these serial killers that have turned their lives around. They still may die in prison or under the death penalty, but I mean, some of these folks have turned to become a very strong advocate for Jesus Christ. He uses murderers. He uses adulterers. I mean, the woman at the well was used to transform a whole city and a region. We think, well, he can't use me. Cheaters. Zacchaeus. He was a cheater. And he turns around and says, God, I'm going to give it all. Make restitution. Transformation happens. When God calls, Jesus called him. He didn't call him to give his stuff away. He just called him. And he was transformed. See, the hurting and the hopeless. He can use us all. There's no qualifier. There's no disqualifier. It just takes a willingness, an availability. See, our response to saying, here I am to God. We may feel inadequate, but God equips us with his call. He asks us not for perfection, but for willingness. God calls us in different ways and for different purposes, whether it's to serve, to speak, to lead, but it's always to love. Whatever your call is, whatever he's put on your heart, whatever you're called to do. The question and the response is what? What will be your response? God's calling all of us. Today, he's calling us. There's always a call. God just needs a yes, and he will do the rest. If we are little Christians, we are to resemble Christ. Little Christ. Todd, I got a video I'm going to play just as a, number one, as a tribute, but just to understand where we are in this nation, that we have to speak up. We have to live loud. Our faith is now is the time.